most expensive asset in the room was not the company. It was not the technology. It was not the capital reserve, the intellectual property portfolio, or the market share accumulated over decades. The most expensive asset was a man who was not there. His chair remained empty. His absence dominated every conversation. Executives referenced him repeatedly. Investors adjusted their assumptions around him. Analysts built entire forecasts attempting to predict his next appearance. Competitors watched every public signal, hoping to discover where he might move next. Yet months had passed without an interview, a conference appearance, a public statement, or even a meaningful indication of intent. The silence itself had become an economic force, and that force revealed one of the least understood principles of power in modern markets. Value does not emerge exclusively from presence. Often it emerges from controlled absence. Most people spend their lives trying to become visible. They pursue recognition, exposure, accessibility, relevance, engagement, and constant participation. Every platform encourages it. Every industry rewards it superficially. Every ambitious individual feels pressure to remain available, responsive, connected, and present. The instinct appears logical. Visibility creates awareness. Awareness creates opportunities. Opportunities create growth. Yet at the highest levels of influence, an inversion begins taking place. The rules change. The psychology changes. The economics change. What creates value for the masses often destroys value for the elite. The average participant seeks attention. The exceptional participant controls attention, and controlling attention begins with controlling access. Human perception contains a fascinating contradiction. People claim to admire abundance, yet they consistently assign greater value to scarcity. This pattern appears everywhere. Rare artwork commands extraordinary premiums. Exclusive memberships create demand far beyond their practical utility. Limited opportunities generate emotional intensity unavailable to ordinary opportunities. Scarcity changes perception because scarcity creates significance. The human mind instinctively assumes that whatever remains difficult to obtain must possess unusual worth. This principle extends far beyond products. It governs people, leaders, institutions, brands, reputations, entire empires. The modern world constantly encourages overexposure. Share more, speak more, reveal more, explain more, engage more, build audiences, expand reach, increase visibility, become accessible. Yet every increase in accessibility quietly introduces a hidden cost: familiarity. And familiarity, when unmanaged, becomes dangerous. Not because familiarity creates understanding, because familiarity often destroys mystique. Once something becomes constantly available, the mind gradually stops assigning special significance to it. This is why disciplined leaders frequently appear unusually selective with access. Not arrogant, selective. The distinction matters enormously. Arrogance seeks superiority. Discipline protects value. The strongest leaders understand that attention behaves like capital. It can be invested, it can be wasted, it can be diluted, it can be concentrated. Most importantly, it can be devalued through oversupply. An oversupplied market loses pricing power. An oversupplied presence loses authority. The psychology is identical. This is where strategic absence begins revealing its deeper purpose. Absence is not withdrawal from relevance. It is protection from overconsumption. The modern economy consumes everything it touches: personal brands, corporate leaders, new ideas, emerging technologies, public personalities. Every cycle demands constant engagement. Every cycle accelerates exposure. Every cycle increases visibility until visibility itself becomes ordinary. But extraordinary value rarely survives ordinary treatment. The elite understand this intuitively. They recognize that every public appearance carries opportunity cost. Every statement creates expectations. Every interview reveals information. Every interaction consumes scarcity. And scarcity remains one of the most powerful economic assets available to any individual operating at scale. There is a reason the most respected figures in many industries often communicate less than everyone else. Their influence does not depend on frequency. It depends on weight. Weight emerges when presence becomes meaningful rather than constant. Meaningful presence requires absence. Without absence, presence loses contrast. Without contrast, significance weakens. Without significance, authority dissolves into familiarity. This creates a fascinating paradox. The average professional believes increased accessibility creates increased value. The elite professional often discovers the opposite. Value begins rising when access becomes selective, not inaccessible. Selective. The distinction separates strategic scarcity from isolation. Strategic scarcity is not disappearance. It is disciplined appearance. It is the deliberate refusal to saturate the market with yourself. The strongest brands understand this principle perfectly. They do not seek universal availability. They seek controlled availability. They understand that prestige emerges when demand consistently exceeds supply. The same law governs professional influence. The leader who appears everywhere eventually becomes predictable. The leader who appears deliberately becomes memorable. Predictability reduces curiosity. Curiosity increases attention. Attention creates leverage. Leverage creates pricing power. The chain is astonishingly consistent. Most people break it at the very beginning because they misunderstand the relationship between visibility and influence. Visibility creates recognition. Influence creates movement. These are not the same thing. Many individuals possess enormous visibility and almost no influence. Others possess limited visibility and extraordinary influence. The difference often resides in scarcity. Scarcity changes perception because it changes behavior. When something is constantly available, people postpone engagement. When something is selectively available, engagement becomes urgent. This principle governs luxury markets, elite institutions, investment opportunities, and human psychology simultaneously. The elite understand that desire intensifies when access requires intention. This understanding extends beyond marketing. It becomes a philosophy of personal positioning. The disciplined leader begins asking different questions. Not how can I reach more people, but how can every appearance carry greater significance? Not how can I increase exposure, but how can I increase gravity? Not how can I occupy more space, but how can I create more weight? Weight matters because weight changes perception. The marketplace constantly evaluates signals. Signals of competence, signals of confidence, signals of value, signals of scarcity. Scarcity remains uniquely powerful because it cannot be easily fabricated over long periods. True scarcity requires restraint, and restraint is rare. The average person struggles to withhold communication, struggles to decline visibility, struggles to resist validation, struggles to remain patient while others compete for attention. Yet this patience creates extraordinary advantages. The leader who refuses unnecessary appearances preserves mystery. The executive who avoids constant commentary preserves flexibility. The investor who remains silent preserves optionality. The institution that communicates selectively preserves authority. These benefits accumulate quietly, month after month, year after year, until a remarkable transformation occurs. The environment begins projecting value onto the scarce entity automatically. This is not manipulation, it is psychology. Human beings complete incomplete pictures. They fill informational gaps with assumptions. They assign significance to what remains unavailable. They become fascinated by what refuses to compete for attention directly. The strongest leaders understand this process and respect it deeply, not because they seek mystery for its own sake, because mystery protects focus. Focus protects execution. Execution creates outcomes. Outcomes ultimately determine value. This is where Stoic wisdom intersects with market dominance. The Stoic is not driven by external stimulation. The Stoic is governed internally. This internal governance allows a person to resist the pressure of constant participation. It allows them to remain silent, while others perform. It allows them to remain absent, while others compete for visibility. Most importantly, it allows them to preserve energy. Energy remains one of the least appreciated forms of capital. Every appearance consumes energy. Every response consumes energy. Every engagement consumes energy. The average person leaks energy continuously. The disciplined individual allocates energy deliberately. Over time, this difference becomes enormous. One individual becomes reactive. The other becomes strategic. One follows attention. The other directs attention, and attention follows scarcity. The deeper one studies elite positioning, the clearer the pattern becomes. The most respected operators often maintain unusually strong boundaries around their availability. Their calendars remain protected. Their communication remains measured. Their appearances remain intentional. Not because they dislike people, because they understand economics. Every resource becomes more valuable when protected from uncontrolled distribution. Time, attention, access, presence. The law remains constant. Scarcity amplifies value. The modern world constantly pressures leaders toward ubiquity. Be ever, by where. Respond instantly. Participate continuously. Remain visible. Remain relevant. Remain engaged. But ubiquity creates a hidden danger. The more available something becomes, the more difficult it becomes to command a premium. Premium positioning requires differentiation. Differentiation requires discipline. Discipline requires refusal. The ability to decline opportunities becomes more important than the ability to pursue them. This realization separates professionals from operators. Professionals often maximize activity. Operators maximize leverage. Leverage emerges when each action carries disproportionate impact. Disproportionate impact emerges when attention remains concentrated. Concentrated attention emerges when presence remains scarce. Everything connects. Everything compounds. Everything reinforces itself. The executive who appears selectively becomes more influential per appearance. The investor who speaks rarely becomes more influential per statement. The institution that communicates deliberately becomes more influential per message. The premium continues rising because scarcity continues increasing significance. Most people never reach this stage because the temptation to remain visible feels overwhelming. Visibility provides immediate feedback. Immediate feedback provides emotional comfort. Emotional comfort often destroys strategic positioning. The elite choose a different path. They sacrifice immediate validation for long-term authority. They sacrifice familiarity for distinction. They sacrifice frequency for impact. And through that sacrifice, they create something extraordinarily rare. Magnetic gravity. The kind of gravity that causes opportunities to arrive unsolicited. The kind of gravity that causes capital to seek proximity. The kind of gravity that causes competitors to monitor movements obsessively. The kind of gravity that cannot be manufactured through marketing alone. because true authority emerges when perception and reality align.